And I was like, you take that back.
Oh, God.
I said, you need to take that back now, and you need to go back and watch Jackie Brown.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Oh, what a lovely day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a wonderful day.
Just retcon one of those famous songs ever.
Was it? What is it? What's the Alan Rickman thing in Galaxy Quest? By somebody.
By Grabthar's hammer.
What a savings. And for music video sense, Barrett Share.
Yellow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hi.
Speaking of Alan Rickman, I watched on Sunday. I was just wiped after the Saturday that we had, and I ended up watching like 4 or 5 Harry Potters in a row.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I had that thing where it's on network TV, but I had like paused it just enough to where I could still fast forward through commercials and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
And so, man, I got in deep. Like, I got into the lore, and I was like, man, this is some serious shit. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I was thinking about the allegory for the current environment that we're in, and like, you know, the people taking over and saying that there's only one race that's mightier than the others.
Hey, how about flat out denying that the evil guy exists?
Yeah.
How about that?
Exactly.
How about that?
Because it takes until the end of fucking Order of the Phoenix for the minister to come in and be like, oh, he's back.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck you, man.
And at that point, you're almost surprised he's even willing to admit it then.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, Order of the Phoenix is so good, though.
Yes,
I mean,
it is.
holds up. Those colors, especially that last scene.
It's the best.
The effects are still good. Man, I like that movie a lot.
Me too.
That's and the big impact of Bellatrix Lestrange with her Avada Kedavra spell towards the end. It's just done so well. It's not. It's somewhat making a point to show it, but it's still kind of random in the action, and you don't know exactly where it just comes out of nowhere.
I actually didn't hear it or hear her say that until like the third or fourth viewing.
Yeah.
I just thought she hit some sort of spell and he just like, entered into that void or whatever. And then I was like, holy shit, she did it.
Harry Potter is one of the few like huge book series that I've read before the movies came out and everything. I read the book. I would read a book before the new movie would come out, and I knew what happened, and it was impactful.
Mm-hmm.
So
God, and then I had never watched Deathly Hallows Part 1 since I saw it in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I sat through that in the fucking
what a
theater.
slog.
Yeah.
So awful, man.
It's literally, they literally made a 4-hour movie and then scissored it in the middle and left us with a boring 2 hours.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And usually stuff with scissors are great.
Yep.
I don't know why I said that.
That's all right. You've been watching a lot of lesbian porn. That's why you said that.
I have. And it slipped out, and it'll never happen again for another week.
Ever.
For another week.
All right.
All right, so we're going to go back on our road trip, apparently.
Hey.
Apparently.
On the road again. The most time-honored tradition of all, the road trip. Oh, the places you'll go.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
Are we there yet?
No.
But, we're going to go on our road trip, and we're going to be doing Mississippi.
Yeah.
Boy.
Mississippi.
Boy,
Man,
oh boy, oh boy.
Mississippi.
The amount of times I had to spell Mississippi in the show notes was very annoying. And of course, I know how to spell Mississippi because it's always Mississippi drilled into you in school.
Why that state?
Why that state has that?
I mean, is it that it has so many chances for you to fuck up the spelling that they decided we got to drill this spelling into the, because you just said that and everyone's going to nod their head, at least Americans are. Mississippi. Yeah, we all learned that, but there's no like INDIANA.
No, and Massachusetts is the worst one to spell.
I don't have some.
I just give up and just like autocorrect it.
But do you have any mnemonic chants you remember from childhood for any other state?
No, there's not even one for Tennessee, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's weird.
Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, no. I've never had much of a problem spelling those states that you were talking about because I'm better than you.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. But hey, also, the state we randomly decided was the longest one to pronounce, thereby when counting in like flag football or tag or any other kind of like counting, like Ross and Friends in the tanning booth, and the guy says, count 1, 2, 3, 4, and Ross is like, Mississippi-lessly? Because we're all so inherently trained to count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi.
That's right.
Mississippi, obviously known for a lot of Southern racism movies.
I thought you didn't have to say movies.
Man,
obviously known for a lot of Southern racism.
Yeah.
I could have stopped there, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think it was one of the last states wasn't it one of the last states to like ratify?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was one of those, but so yeah, there's a lot of those movies set there.
A lot of bad history down there.
Yeah, but right off the bat, we don't have that in our alphabetical order and everything. We have an Elia Kazan movie called Baby Doll.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Oof.
It's apparently isn't it about like two guys going after this virgin?
No, so the
No,
kind of. Yes,
It should be.
no, kind of. You're right.
Okay.
So there's this girl that lives with I think a cotton gin or cotton farmer.
Okay.
And he keeps her around. He's actually like betrothed to her, she to him. And like once she turns 20, then he can consummate the marriage. And she's like 19.
Does she get Covenant style powers?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he's like sitting around waiting for her to turn 20 so he can consummate this marriage. But meanwhile, she's like, she dresses like a baby doll and like sucks her thumb and like,
really?
Sleeps in like a crib type of thing. It's very, very, this is a Tennessee Williams play that was adapted in 56, and Elia Kazan actually did it. And it's, I haven't watched it recently, but it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable
You see my
watch.
face?
That's
That
the
is
baby
not
doll
the face of a guy that wants to watch this movie.
Yeah.
Why would you even write this down if you had this idea? Like, I get a lot of ideas, and 90% of them were like, nope.
Tennessee
No,
Williams,
that's too fucked up.
Tennessee Williams was obsessed with that type of stuff, though.
I guess you're right.
It's like it's good old Southern, like, sexual tension.
Mm-hmm.
How baby doll is she in this? Is she Natalie Portman and V for Vendetta baby doll, or like
She's young. I think this was
she's like 19 though?
Yeah, the character's 19. Carol Baker is the woman that played her. I think this was one of her first roles. So I think she was super young when she did it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird subject. And yes, two guys are vying for her affection, like a rival cotton farmer or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So any good? More than, is it just disturbing?
I mean, like I went back and watched Lolita, Kubrick's Lolita, and like, yes, there's a lot of disturbing stuff in there, but I enjoy watching that movie because I like how it was done. I love Peter Sellers in there. So if I went back and watched this again, maybe it would still be a good movie, but yeah, it's just a fucked up subject movie.
Okay. Then there's Biloxi Blues. Biloxi Blues is one of the post Ferris Bueller's Day Off movies for Matthew Broderick. He had been in the play of Biloxi Blues, I believe.
Oh, was he really?
And then they finally made the movie and everything. I don't remember much about this other than when he gets off the bus and he's like, oh my God, it's so hot out here. It's like Africa hot. Tarzan couldn't stand this kind of hot. And Christopher Walken in there where he's like, everyone here will respond by saying ho.
Yeah.
and so like they gets to Matthew Broderick and he's like, do you understand that? And he's like, oh yes.
I mean,
no.
And what's funny about Walken's performance in that movie, I like this movie a lot, is like he's not the stereotypical drill sergeant. He is the drill sergeant, but like he's subtle in the way that he abuses you. He's not like Arlie Ermy, like shouting at you and stuff like that. He'll just be like, "Good morning, Private. Good morning, Private. How you doing? How you doing?" And then he was like, you sound off with ho and just ho. And then when they screw it up, he's like, I think you should pick somebody to do some push-ups for you in recompense for this. and Matthew Broderick doesn't say anything, so Christopher Walken leans in. He's like, "What's that? The biggest guy in the platoon? All right, you go."
Yeah.
Man, I saw this movie once. I don't remember it at all.
Yeah,
I got nothing.
It's a Neil Simon play. He apparently did a trilogy. I didn't know this. It was Brighton Beach Memoirs was the first one, and Broadway Bound was the second one. This is the second part.
This came out in 88.
88, yep.
He calls it the BB trilogy.
Yeah.
Brighton Beach,
Yeah.
Biloxi Blues,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the other two B were.
Broadway Bound.
Broadway Bound.
Yeah, it's definitely the BB trilogy, right?
BB's
Gotta
Yeah.
be.
This is a good movie though. This
Yeah,
is worth
it is.
checking out.
I haven't
for sure.
seen it in forever, but I
I
remember
wasn't-
it being funny.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to be dismissive. I
No.
just don't remember. I can't add to this conversation. Matthew Broderick's in it.
Yeah, it's one of those that's kind of got lost to time though.
Yeah.
You know, it's not one of those that is revived a
I
lot.
do remember the trailers running like crazy on
Mhm.
network television.
Then there's Big Bad Love. I've never seen this.
So this is based on a Larry Brown collection of short stories. Now, Larry Brown was a retired firefighter that did a book called Dirty Work and got famous for being a writer. He wrote Joe. He wrote...
You mean the Matthew McConaughey Joe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which takes place in Texas, but great writer. Really, like, visceral writer. And so when I heard that they were turning Big Bad Love into a movie, I was like, yeah, man. It sucks ass.
Oh, really?
It is awful. The book in the collection of short stories is fantastic, but the movie sucks ass.
I'm sorry. I think that was Nicolas Cage that was in Joe, not Matthew
Oh, yeah,
McConaughey.
that's right.
I was thinking of Killer Joe.
Yeah.
So it sucks ass. That's
Mhm.
Big Bad Love, man. yeah, that's got to be good. It's got to be good.
That's also the name of the forthcoming Shaq sex tape.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's correct. Then there's another Tennessee Williams adaptation called Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
What's with all the plays in Mississippi? It's
Yeah.
like 3 in a row.
I don't know.
Play.
Yeah, a lot of plays.
I'm just saying.
You're right. I don't think there's very many more after this, actually. So
that's
it's just
good.
one of those where it's,
I fucking
where
hate plays.
It's grouped in. Yeah.
Have you've seen Cat on a
I
Hot Tin
have.
Roof, right?
I saw this on the big screen.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, I think when I went to visit Mike when he was in Louisville, there's a classic theater out there, right?
Mhm. Yeah, the Palace Theater.
Yeah, we went to that and saw Cat on a Hot Tin Roof.
Nice.
And very good movie. This is Elizabeth Taylor at her just, she's so gorgeous.
At her hottest.
She's
Would you
so
say her
gorgeous.
va-va-voomiest?
Yes, absolutely. She's married to Paul Newman. And this is sort of a subtle and never once mention it, but it's a homosexual character.
Mhm.
Because she wants him, and he's like, nope.
Yep.
And this is Liz Taylor. This is pre-Cleopatra Liz Taylor. Like, you don't turn down Liz Taylor when
Yep.
when you have the chance. This isn't Flintstones Liz Taylor.
You don't want to fuck Flintstones, Liz Taylor?
Maybe. But no, this is really, really good. And,
It's amazing. Burl Ives is the big guy.
He may actually steal the movie in
Mhm.
certain spots. He's just so like matter of fact about everything. He like there's these annoying fucking kids running around and
Yeah.
everything, and he's just always like go back to your room, you stupid monkeys, or some crap like that. You know, he's like shows no like he doesn't sugar anything down at all. But such a good movie.
What's interesting about this is that the play is a lot more overt about the character's homosexuality.
Mhm.
Like, he had a friend in school where he was like the star athlete who he loved, and they couldn't consummate it, basically. So the friend killed himself, and like that's when he went into this like downward despair and everything. And I think Newman wanted to play it like that. And Tennessee Williams got really pissed off about the way that it's portrayed in this movie, in the 1958 version.
But it's so. This is a good discussion to have because it's one of those weird things. Movies back then, when they had the Hays Code stuff going on, couldn't go over the line with stuff like this, and it would have been probably death for this movie to actually do it if they were allowed to do it back in 1958. But I feel like the way they skirted the Hays Code is almost sometimes better than just going over the line.
Yeah, sure.
Sort of, it gives you that, you can interpret things, you can read into things. They always did that with those, to circumvent that code. They would do that type of thing where it was just like, there was just like hints.
Yeah.
All along, and then
it's obvious watching in 2018 eyes or whatever, watching this movie that's the context of it. But yeah, they had to skirt it so much that there's no overt reference to it.
Yeah, and it's I don't know, it might be a better movie for it.
Well, okay, so they made a new one, or a remake of it. I think it was 1984. They had Tommy Lee Jones as the main character and Jessica Lange as Maggie the cat.
Yeah.
You went from Paul Newman. Tommy Lee Jones is a great actor, but God, doesn't the role kind of require like a hottie?
Yeah, well, I mean, 84, Tommy Lee.
Yeah.
No, don't even try to make that argument. Hey, Tommy Lee Jones has always been a butterface. I'm sorry.
That's probably true. Although Jessica Lange, though. Now, Jessica Lange.
But apparently they were more overt about the actual context of it. I haven't seen it. I think it may have been made for TV. I don't really want to see it.
Those are always awesome.
Now, of course, I don't want to be misinterpreted here and someone saying, well, it's just better to just go ahead and suppress the homosexual stuff that's going on, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I'm saying.
Yes.
I'm just saying that I think that if they had gone over the line with it, it would have not as been a good and subtle movie or whatever. So,
right.
Yeah, Tommy Lee and Jessica Lange.
Yeah.
Rip Torn is in this.
Of course he is.
Well,
of course
now
he
I'm
is.
watching it.
Looks like you've given your password to the entire Pacific Rim. Then there's Cookie's Fortune. I know this is a Robert Altman movie. Glenn Close is in this, I think. And then I think, is it Liv Tyler maybe?
Yeah. Yeah.
I never saw this though.
What a weird time for this to come out. It completely went past it. This is 1999, of course, a stacked year. Robert Altman, like this is in my prime movie watching experience, and I totally would have watched this if I had known the context
Well,
of it.
and Chris and I were both working at Hollywood at this time, building and watching most of the movies that came out. I don't even remember this at all. Like, I barely remember this
seeing
even...
the poster. That was it. I never saw the movie.
You never
I
even
didn't either.
hear it mentioned in Altman's like filmography.
No. Do you think that means maybe it's terrible?
I don't know.
I don't know. 6.9 on the IMDb. I remember when it came out, it was not getting good reviews though. So I don't think it was anything that everybody's like, you gotta go see this. Julianne Moore's in it too.
Yeah, Chris O'Donnell. It's got a really good cast.
Yeah.
Courtney B. Vance, Ned Beatty.
Altman's always had pretty good casts. It's just whether or not they're good at improving.
Yeah.
The more he got into improving, which I think his style sort of demands at sometimes, right? Because there's some of that shit in the background that's not in the script. Anyway.
No idea with this though. Who knows? It could have been a straightforward movie for all we know.
Yeah.
For all I know, it's animated.
Yeah.
I've seen that shit.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. It could have been a Tool video.
It was when Robert Altman was going through his stop motion phase.
Yeah, exactly. Then Django Unchained.
Django.
All right. So I like this movie, but man, when it came out, a lot of the younger generation considered this the best Tarantino movie ever.
Yeah, and I never really understood that. Now, I agree. I like this movie up until that strange final act.
Oh, yeah.
Where, like, it seems like everything's tied up. It's not a spoiler. They kill Candy. Christoph Waltz is dead. Like, he gets his revenge. Everything's good to go. And then he gets captured. And, like, there's this weird tacked on, like, extra 25 minutes or so that I think kind of ruins the movie for me.
Yeah, it does drag
Well,
quite
isn't
a
that
bit.
the section where Tarantino himself is in it too?
Yeah.
I wonder.
Yeah, it is that. And they go through this whole thing where they're taking him to some other state and they're gonna sell him and all this other type of stuff. And then he turns the tables on them.
And he gets revenge again. Which,
yeah.
I understand. Like, you want, like, the most revengiest revenge ever.
Well, and what I haven't seen it in forever, but I think he says something like, I have a huge bounty on my head or whatever, and that you can turn me in for a certain amount and all that. And then I do like the end. Now, if they could have just gotten to that faster, it would have been a different thing. But yeah, I remember somebody at the theater who was like, "Oh man, Django Unchained is my favorite Tarantino movie. It's way better than that Jackie Brown shit for sure."
Oh.
And I was like, "You take that back."
Oh God.
I said, "You need to take that back now, and you need to go back and watch Jackie Brown, and you're gonna take that shit back when you watch it." It's either this or Inglourious Bastards is his all-time box office champ.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, while he may be known more for Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs and stuff like that, Inglourious Bastards and this one are his top 2
I think you're
all-time
right.
box office movies.
Here's hoping that he can get back to his Jackie Brown Pulp Fiction form for this 70s Manson movie he's making.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's Django Unchained with 162 and then Inglourious Bastards.
I think part of the draw for Django in general and with the generation behind us was Leo. This was the first marriage of Leonardo DiCaprio and Tarantino.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people wanted to see that. And I think a lot of people were really happy with the end result. And there is a certain satisfaction in seeing Leo just sully his image completely. Right?
Playing a bad guy.
Huh? Yeah,
The
playing a
worst
bad guy who
Yeah,
says
yeah.
the N-word 1,062 times.
Yes.
Who has no redeemable qualities other than a captivating way of speaking.
Yeah.
Right? And, I think there is something enjoyable about seeing an actor it'd be like seeing Tom Hanks do a role like this, which we're probably never going to get at this point. And he's great. Again, like a lot of Tarantino, the excesses in this movie get to me. And the way he talks and the uses of the N-word, the hanging scene, all the violence and it's all 10 to 15% more than it really needs to be, and I don't enjoy it as much as Tarantino does for whatever reason.
Either Tarantino is just that good at creating characters, or the actors who come to it could be both. The actors who come to play decide that they're going to do better, but actors in these movies are always better than they are in everything else that they're in.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson
Oh, God.
will sit here and play 25 movies in a row playing Samuel L. Jackson and yelling and all this other type of stuff. Here, he plays a character so complex
Yep.
and just evil
Yep.
and everything that you're like, why can't I see this from you all the time? Now, I know if you're Samuel L. Jackson and they're giving you gobs of money to do whatever, I would do that too.
Sure.
I am not blaming him for doing that.
No.
I'm just saying I'd like to see more of him do that because he's capable of it.
And less Jumper.
Yeah, and less Jumper. Right.
Hey, what would this movie have been like with Will Smith in it?
Whew, man.
If he committed,
Mm-hmm.
because
It's not like Jamie Foxx is bad in this movie.
no,
he's very,
Jamie
very good.
Foxx is fine. I never think Jamie Foxx is like, wow, what a great fucking actor.
Mm-hmm.
He's just solid. I don't think that's a diss. I just don't ever watch a movie he's in and come away with one of my chief thoughts being he was a great actor in that. Even Ray, where the whole movie is, look how good of an actor he is. My first thought was, well, he really sounded like him when he sang and when he talked. And if the impression is good acting, I didn't like that movie at all.
Right.
But, Collateral, I mean, any other movies that he's good in, he's good.
Yeah.
But there are people better. Like Samuel Jackson is way better in this than Jamie Foxx. Go ahead.
And my thought is that he would have been awesome in this.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think everybody just sort of brings it for Tarantino, and Will Smith would have in this. I think like Jamie Foxx, I think I see what you're saying. He's not any better in this than he is in any other movie.
Right.
And that's the difference between, I think if you put Will Smith in this, he would have been an elevated Will Smith.
Yeah, I think so too.
And because he's got that kind of a work ethic and everything. And not to say Jamie Foxx doesn't work hard. It's just that I feel like Jamie Foxx is always playing Jamie Foxx.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would have loved to have seen it. And it's too bad that Will Smith is so image conscious that he felt like this would have just ruined him for some reason, or his advisors thought it would ruin him for other future projects or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also can't blame him for that. That's his decision.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Ghosts of Mississippi. Rob Reiner directed this.
Yeah.
Oh, God, Rob.
This was sort of the beginning of his bad streak. He started not coming out with good movies around this time.
I just remember James Woods is in this movie.
Yeah.
Playing a super racist guy.
Right.
Shocking, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
This is Alec Baldwin, right?
Alec Baldwin, Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah, this is the Medgar Evers.
Yeah. The Medgar Evers trial. The murder trial.
Right. So he was murdered, and then his accusers had like a mistrial on like 2 different occasions, and then it's Alec Baldwin's attempt to do a third trial and actually do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's not a bad movie, but it's not a very good movie. I don't think.
This was the first time, and I never saw this movie, but this was the first time I had started hearing, and I'm sure that this kind of discussion had occurred for a long time before this, but this was the first time I had ever heard something like, why are we getting Rob Reiner to direct this story?
Yeah.
Why aren't we getting Spike Lee to do this?
Right.
Or somebody who might be a little bit more familiar with the subject or whatever. Rob Reiner, of course, is, an ultra liberal guy, so it obviously means a lot to him to do this story. But this was the first time I had heard that kind of rumbling. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, maybe we shouldn't let white ass Rob Reiner direct this.
He does have a white ass.
He does.
A wide white ass.
Yeah. Then there's The Help, another racism.
You don't like this movie, right?
Oh no, the movie's fine. There's that poop pie eating scene.
Yeah.
That I think is entirely unneeded, at least the way it's presented. You want to give that character a chance to serve comeuppance on the racist white lady. I am all for it. You want it to be a poop pie. I'm all for it. Don't need to see it being eaten.
Yep.
Don't need to see all the stuff I see in that scene. My wife loves this movie. If this movie's on, the entire universe disappears for my wife. We could have plans to go to the fucking symphony, and if this movie was on, she's like, well, just wait. There's only 2.5 more hours. Because when they play The Help, it's like a 4-hour broadcast.
Oh,
It's not a short movie, but they always pack in commercials. Anyway, I think it's great. Emma Stone's great in it.
There's too many characters in this movie.
There are, and it jumps around just enough that I never really know who's who.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Jessica Chastain is in this, and Bryce Dallas Howard is in this, and I'm always asking my wife, now one of those is nice, and one of them is racist.
Yeah.
Which one is which?
Of red-haired white ladies.
It's definitely Bryce Dallas Howard is the bad one.
You're right. Yeah, she's the one that gets to eat the shit pie.
Yeah.
No, it's a solid movie. Maybe not quite as great as the hoopla surrounding it when it came out, but solid. I think it's probably a good B+, A-.
Yeah.
Everybody gives a good performance.
Introduce most people, I think most mainstream moviegoers, to Viola Davis
Yep.
and Octavia Spencer, even though they had been around forever.
Yep.
But this was their first big showcase type movie, and they've been in a ton of stuff since.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what to think about this movie. It's a lot of times I wonder if I feel like it's white guilt bringing people in a lot of times and elevating the, I've got to go see this because, that was bad and I feel
There's probably a certain amount of that. I mean, but also
even the book was written by a white girl who grew up looking at all this around her and clearly felt guilty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I there has to be, there's not online, but in communities, on podcasts with friends, there has to be a space to be able to discuss this, whether or not, like, we can't just start ignoring all touchy conversations, right? So there definitely is some white guilt involved here in terms of why this was so successful and praised.
Yeah.
In that there were plenty of people who felt a responsibility to support a work that showed how bad it was for them because of us, like 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But like that, I don't think that can be all of it either.
No, it's not. I think it's a good movie. I just think there's a lot of times a movie like this comes out and it's just like, well, I guess I better go see that.
Yeah. This is, I mean, something like 12 Years a Slave, I don't think was a huge box office draw.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there was a little bit of that too. I think the fact that this is a better movie, I don't know, 12 Years a Slave is a perfectly fine movie too, but it's a more palatable movie, I guess.
Well, yeah. And maybe what we're talking about isn't even white guilt. Maybe it's American guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, sure, there's a lot of guilt in America.
I went to see 12 Years a Slave because I felt an obligation. I felt like it was an important movie. It had gotten good reviews, but I felt like it was important for me to see, not as a white guy, but as an American. We did this as a country.
And, The Help is a little bit more of I guess it's, even though it's got the awful stuff in it, it's more sugar-coated, right? I mean, there's
no pun intended.
The stuff is actually worse than what we're seeing. This is more palatable to a mainstream audience than 12 Years a Slave is.
Yeah, I mean, most of what you see in The Help is just just being really rude.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
But it's not like, I'm sure there was like physical violence. I'm sure there was emotional abuse and verbal abuse. And it is a much more PG-13 look into what that was probably like.
Mm-hmm.
3 white people talking about this.
I know. And it doesn't get better. In the Heat of the Night comes in after that.
God, what a fucking great movie.
This is a fantastic movie.
Oh, my God. I caught this not too long ago on one of the cable channels, and I caught it right at the moment where Rod Steiger and Sidney Poitier are in they're in the greenhouse of the guy. And the super racist guy, they're all super racist, but one of the super racist guys, and he comes out, and, Sidney Poitier's a detective from Philadelphia or something like that, and he asks him a question. And the fact that he asks him a question is so offensive to this racist dude that he smacks this motherfucker in the face.
Yeah.
And not a half a second goes by that Sidney Poitier smacks that motherfucker right and it's so fucking great, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And then he just stares at him. And he's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything. This is why this line is up there, I think, in the AFI all-time lines. But there's nothing more powerful than when, like, what do they call you up in Philadelphia up there? What do they call you up there? Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, they call me Mr. Tibbs. And
so good.
And it's like, that basically saying they know me as a person and not just some black cop.
Yep.
And yeah, Rod Steiger's character changes a lot through this whole thing because he's not happy about it, but he's letting it go on or whatever. But he's not willing to take his ideas at all at first, and then finally he comes around to what makes sense in this case and everything. And this is just a dynamite movie. I don't think we talk about it enough. It's about 50 years old now.
Yeah. This is Norman Jewison.
Yeah, Norman Jewison.
Led to a pretty acclaimed television show that had a nice run.
Carol O'Connor played the Rod Steiger character.
Yeah.
And
he went from playing one racist character on one show to playing another one.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did, Jeremy. But yeah, I would highly recommend this. I actually saw this recently too, towards the end as well.
You forget how good it is.
Yeah,
because
it's a good. Besides the racism and everything, it's a good mystery too.
Yeah, it really is because
Yeah.
there's a lot of different layers to it that he has to. Sidney Poitier has to uncover the layers to this mystery that's very, very complex and involves like a pregnant teen and all kinds of crazy shit. But he has to do that in the context of like everybody out to get him, literally. And so he's got to just kind of fend that off. And I don't know of very many people, actors that could carry this performance so beautifully because he's so fucking commanding. Just his presence, and his dialect and the way that he if I met that guy, he would probably stare into my soul,
Yeah.
And that's how he's able to keep focus on this case and actually end up, solving it. So good.
I think this and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner came out the same year, and Poitier did not get nominated for either. We've talked about that before, but it's staggering when you watch both of those movies how he didn't get nominated for one of them,
and how all the nominations he should have got went to Shakespeare in Love.
That's true. That's very true. A lot of people don't realize that Shakespeare in Love robbed Sidney Poitier so many times. Now here's the movie, and this is just one of my all-timers, The Insider.
Yeah.
I do think of this maybe more as a Kentucky movie than Mississippi.
Right.
I don't know if we talked about this movie when Kentucky came up.
That's interesting. I think of it more as like a New York movie because of all the 60-minute shit.
Well, yeah, it is kind of back and forth between those two because Lowell Bergman, who's Al Pacino's character, is in New York. Meanwhile, you have Wygand in Kentucky, where
but Wygand ends up
Brown and Williamson stuff.
Right. But he ends up like holding up in Mississippi to do the interview, right?
Yes, I think so,
Yeah.
because he can't. He because he's a whistleblower and because he has a non-disclosure agreement, he can't say it in Kentucky,
Right.
without violating it. But of course, the legal wrangling with all this type of thing is once he says it in Mississippi, he can't set foot back into Kentucky.
Yeah.
The Insider is just an absolutely fantastic slam dunk of a movie.
You know, it's and not enough people say that or think that or even have seen this movie because it's maybe one of the best boring sounding movies I've ever seen.
True.
Yeah,
it's true.
Because if you told me it's a nearly 3-hour movie about a producer at CNN or 60 Minutes trying to convince a guy to talk and then trying to get that story to air, I would be snoring before you finish that description.
Yeah.
And even if you told me Al Pacino and Michael Mann, I might think about Heat, but it's probably not enough. But man, this movie's fantastic. Everyone kills it.
Yeah.
Russell Crowe is maybe never been better than he is in this movie.
Yeah.
And he's pretty great in a couple of other, like Beautiful Mind, he's pretty fantastic. Al Pacino's awesome. I love the idea, and I don't know how romanticized this is. There's a little bit of this in Shattered Glass with the editor, Hank Azaria. I love the idea of a romanticized newsman who will go to bat for his writer or his source or the truth. And whether or not the character Pacino's playing was this passionate about it, whether or not Mike Wallace was as involved as he is in the movie.
Christopher Plummer.
Taking over for Kevin Spacey.
Taking over for Kevin Spacey, for sure. Even back in 99.
You know, I don't really know. You know, this is definitely based on a true story. There definitely was pressure to either kill the story or alter the story. They ultimately end up running an altered, shortened version. Right?
Yeah. So many things happen, and the movie's really does a really good job of telling you exactly why they're doing what they're doing. In the first interview, he pretty much tells you Brown and Williamson puts this drug in cigarettes that makes you want to smoke more. And so then the shortened version is like they've blacked out his face and they've changed his voice and everything. And yeah, all those little key things that are important to that story are essentially cut out. There's what a mess. CBS is about to get bought by another cigarette company, and the cigarette company is like, you're not going to run that. And so you got all these CBS corporate coming in to talk to 60 Minutes with Gina Gershon and Stephen Tobolowsky, and all these guys are like, you know, there's a point because Gina Gershon keeps calling Mike Wallace Mike, very formal and very like Mike, and there's a point where Mike Wallace gets pissed off and he's like, Mike, how about Mr. Wallace? And I've talked about that scene with Bruce McGill when they do get him to testify in that one court, and the lawyers for Brown and Williamson keep trying to interrupt and everything. It's like Mr. Wygant, you have been instructed not to answer that question. And, we have rights here. And Bruce McGill's like, oh yeah, you got rights. You got lefts, ups and downs, the middle. So what? And then it's like, wipe that smoke off your face. And, all that. Bruce McGill it's such a good scene. Everybody in this is so good.
Yeah.
I really can't, recommend The Insider enough.
Yeah.
There's 2 movies right there in a row. Watch In the Heat of the Night. Watch The Insider. Be changed forever.
Yeah. Russell Crowe had a great run there for a while. He had The Insider, and then he had Gladiator, and then he had Beautiful Mind.
Yeah.
He's kind of...
Once he threw the phone, much like Tom Cruise jumping on the couch, there was a public sort of... I don't really like that guy.
I think it was once he sang in Les Mis.
I don't know.
For sure.
It seemed like he had like a rough reputation a little bit before that.
Well, I mean, he was pretty much, I think, a shoo-in to win Best Actor in Beautiful Mind. And then throwing the phone.
Yeah.
That sort of...
Remind me what happened there? He threw a phone at somebody?
It was at a hotel, and I think it was at a concierge or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, I guess the concierge pissed him off or whatever, and he threw a phone at him or whatever. And I'm pretty sure he was destined to win it, but he didn't. It was Denzel Washington won for Training Day that year.
Wow, his old Virtuosity co-star sniped his Oscar.
Just went in there and snuck it from him, man.
I love Virtuosity. I saw an article that talked about, I guess Denzel's out promoting Equalizer 2, and had said that in this interview that he was up for 7 for the Brad Pitt role, and thought the script was too demonic. And then when the movie came out, he was like, I blew it. and I was the whole way driving here, I was thinking about what that would have looked like, because I think it changes the character's age enough that it would alter the dynamic completely, because he can't play the same age Brad Pitt was playing in that movie, even back in 95 when it was 95 when this 7 came out. So Denzel 95 looked probably 10 years older than what Brad Pitt looked like.
Yeah.
And I think I remember reading at one point the races of the characters weren't set in stone, or that the Morgan Freeman character was a white guy, but when they cast Morgan Freeman, they said, who cares about that? Something like that.
And that movie also famously had terrible, when it was shown for audiences before the final cut and everything. Oh, it had terrible scores.
Interesting.
And I don't know, because I've always heard horror stories about those type of things where they say, we're gonna put you in here and you're gonna watch this Brad Pitt movie or whatever, and it's like 70-year-old ladies and stuff like that watching.
You're 7.
Oh, God. And then they come out and they're like, well, that was awful. Of course they did.
I tweeted something about this, and I know we're going off the rails. I apologize, but don't you think it's possible that we're headed towards a place where what we're seeing with MoviePass and its competitors, where the studios begin to try and target the super fans by involving them in those screenings and inviting them to the set, or what you subscribe to this X superfan service and it gives you these perks. I feel like that's inevitable.
That's going to fundamentally change how they're constructed then. If they're getting feedback based on their fans versus an actual,
I can see that definitely happening.
Yeah, because there's so many people out there who buy in on a brand name, like Cloverfield.
Mm-hmm.
If the studio announced a Cloverfield fan club and you pay X dollars a year, and for that you get to see the next Cloverfield movie before anyone else. If that was the only perk, they could fund the next movie with that fan club.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Hollywood, we're not dumb. We're smart. Give us a listen.
I'm smart. I'm not dumb like everybody says.
Before we go off to the next movie, another thing I wanted to say about The Insider is that it is a very long movie, but it immediately grips you because it starts off with this shot of a blanket over the camera, essentially, and it's like it's this music, this real driving music, and it frames that story with first a Mike Wallace interview with, I think it's the Ayatollah Khomeini or somebody like that. I can't remember if that's who it was, but it frames it with that, and then the Brown and Williamson stuff happens at the end of it. They're looking for the Unabomber, but like it goes right off into that thing, and it's like this drums and and it's all the credits and everything, and you're like, whoa, this is already going. This movie is really just, and it never lets up. The thing about Heat is that you can find real slow moments in Heat.
Oh, yeah.
And it does feel like it's 3 hours. The Insider does not feel like that.
Yeah. For a movie that's basically all talk, it does fly by.
Yeah, it does.
Then there's The Lady Killers. Is this the remake?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the remake, because I think the original was set
it was a Great Britain.
Yeah,
because Alec Guinness is in it and everything. I've actually seen a couple of other older Alec Guinness movies lately, movie stuff. There was one called The Man in the White Suit, and another one that I saw called the Lavender Hill Gang. And just watching Alec Guinness back in those days, everything's just fun, man.
Yeah.
He hasn't, like I think in The Man in the White Suit, he hadn't quite gotten his Alec Guinness voice yet. But in a Lavender Hill Gang, you can start hearing who's the fool, or the that type of thing. Anytime he says words that are Star Wars related, you start thinking of that. But anyway. The Lady Killers with Tom Hanks. This is a Coen Brothers movie. And I'm on record saying I like The Lady Killers. I like Tom Hanks' performance in this. I like all the other characters, J.K. Simmons and Marlon Wayans. And I like the story of it, and I like how every time one of them is killed, they all end up falling on that boat and everything. And there are some nice Coen touches in The Lady Killers. Whereas in Intolerable Cruelty, it just seems like a straightforward. There's a couple,
it seems like a rom-com.
Couple of Coen Brothers stuff in there, but But yeah, Lady Killers didn't. Nobody really responded to that, and I don't know if it's just that it's just bad, or people didn't want to see Tom Hanks this way, or because this is a different Tom Hanks performance.
Oh, totally. He's a
not
con man,
playing
right?
himself in this.
Well, and he's dirty.
Yeah,
like grimy, dirty, and
Yeah.
he's the same thing in Cloud Atlas, and people didn't respond to that. I don't think the public wants to see dirty, grimy Tom
they
Hanks,
probably don't.
except for Castaway.
Right.
Shit.
But even then, he's Tom Hanks.
He
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. He's got like highlights in his hair.
Yeah,
so.
he doesn't look
Yeah.
like he's got cooties, but
Right.
in Lady Killers he does.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you'd be worried, he'd be wiping down shit with antiseptic wipes.
But he's saying he's taught like all the words he uses in this are just way more than he needs.
Oh, it's awesome.
And it's so funny. And he talks pretty fast too. So like there's not much you can say back to him and everything. But it's about a bunch of robbers who hole up in this old lady's house to plot their robbery or whatever. And isn't it right next to the place? Is that how they get it? Or
I think so. They're going to tunnel from her basement
Yeah.
to the place they're trying to rob, I think.
Yeah.
They end up getting the money, don't they?
Well, yes. The old lady gets it and donates
Yeah, the
it
old
to the
lady
church.
gets it,
Yeah,
right.
that's right. Yeah.
Because I think this is a spoiler. I think every one of them died.
Yeah.
They all
yeah.
die,
Yeah.
and she donates. That's like the last thing is her donating
Yeah.
the money to the church or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, it's Irma P. Hall. Irma P. Hall.
Irma
man.
P.
She's doing a great job in this. She actually maybe outside of Hank steals the movie. Irma P. Hall. Good in this. Then there's Life. Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence movie. I didn't like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think this movie got a little bit overshadowed, and I think it got weirdly marketed because these are two of the funniest people in the world at the time in 1999, and it's not all comedy in
It's
this
not
movie.
all comedy. Here's the problem with the movie as I remember it. Again, I built it at Hollywood. I watched it one time. That movie sold like gangbusters, by the way.
I'm sure it did.
It plays in the middle too much between. It wants to have super serious, almost Shawshank-like moments,
Right.
but it wants to have Nutty Professor moments, and it doesn't work that way. And this was the first movie I remember thinking, Sheen is wearing off.
From Eddie Murphy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I believe Ted Demme directed this too.
wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if you see a movie called Life on the TV Guide nowadays, it's probably that Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal joint.
Yeah.
And that's not great, but
Well,
it's way watchable.
Isn't that just another way of saying stop calling your fucking movie Life?
Yeah, or
I mean, like, who's gonna watch that shit? I mean, just stop.
Yeah.
Don't even get past the board meeting with your movie being called Life. There is one thing I remember from Life being funny though, and I remember laughing for a really good long time, and I won't do it any justice. But there's a scene in the middle where Eddie Murphy swears up and down that this guy stole his watch or whatever, and he and Martin Lawrence like kill that guy.
Yeah.
They kill him. And so he gets his watch back or whatever. So then there's outtakes at the end of the movie. And there's like all these little outtakes, blah, blah, blah. The very last one is Eddie Murphy looking at the watch going, wait a minute, this isn't my watch.
That's awesome.
I remember watching the whole movie going, it's okay, it's all right. And then the outtakes happen, and I came out. I was still working at my old theater when this came out. I remember coming out I was like just doubled over. Like that's a perfect way to end that.
I forgot there were outtakes to that. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, it straddles the line of dramedy probably a little bit too much.
yeah.
I think I like the story itself. But yeah, it's tonally weird. And it
Yeah.
was Ted Demme, by the way.
Yeah.
Nice. Good call.
You
You just pulled Ted Demme out of your ass.
I sure did.
How'd he get up there?
I don't know. He's always found a way. Then there is Mississippi Burning. This is Gene Hackman, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Some serious racism going on in this movie.
There is, and this one got a lot of I see all these Mississippi things like Mississippi
Why
murder,
they put the state name in their
Mississippi.
title? That's so weird.
I don't know if it's based on an actual true story, but it's about the FBI going in and busting up the KKK and trying to figure out where these murders are happening and stuff like that. And what it got flack for was the the white savior syndrome.
Right, yeah.
Gene Hackman and Willem Dafoe, we're going to come in here, we're going to play by our own rules, and we're going to make this happen.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like all the courageous African-American people are like, what the fuck, man?
Well, it's one of those movies too. I guess the town that they're in, they are run by these racists. Like they own the town essentially. So trying to get actual information from anybody in this town is nearly impossible.
Right. Oh, Frances McDormand's in this.
Oh yeah.
Because she actually gives them like a tip of like what's happening, and she goes back home. I think her husband is the sheriff or the mayor or something like that, and he beats the fuck out of her.
Mm-hmm. This is apparently inspired by the murder of the Ku Klux Klan of voting rights activists James Chaney, Michael Schwerner, and Andrew Goodman. I don't know if that's what the movie itself is about, but it is it's inspired by or whatever by that. And then there's Mississippi Mazzala, which I only remember.
But Mississippi's in all of these titles.
Yeah.
There's
a
two
ton.
movies.
Well, there's that, but there's a run of them. In
There's
the
a million
thing.
others, but like, okay. So Mississippi Mazzala, I never saw this movie. I remember the poster though. I know that Denzel Washington's in it, and there was this very fetching young woman on it named Sarita Chaudhry.
Oh yeah,
something like that. I think there's a guy on Facebook who has this name, almost the exact last name.
Oh really?
And I don't know really how to pronounce it, and I'm sorry, but it's like either Chaudhry or Chaudhry or something like that. Anyway, I don't know it's a love story.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it's about an African American Denzel. An African American.
Yeah, exactly.
An African American played by Denzel.
Right.
Who falls in love with an Indian woman.
Yes.
And like there's all these like overlaying issues of race because it's not all just like the white oppression and stuff like that. It's about African American views towards interracial marriage outside of even white people, like an Indian thing, and then the Indian people being distrustful of the African Americans.
Yeah,
and it's all in this Mississippi town too. So there's a lot of layers to it. I haven't seen it in a while, but love conquers all. And all
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Then there's My Dog Skip.
My Dog Mississippi Skip.
After all the racism and stuff like that,
this is one of the best dog movies I ever completely forgot after watching it.
Oh yeah.
I saw it. I remember thinking, boy, that was fucking good. And then I forgot it all. Is Kevin Bacon in it?
Kevin Bacon is in it. Luke Wilson, Diane Lane, and Frankie Muniz.
I really liked it. Can't remember a damn thing. I think it's a Jack Russell Terrier.
It is.
All right. That's all I got.
Listen, I can't watch fucking dog movies.
No, well, especially, half of them do what this one does.
Yeah, I mean, this one like survives up until the end, but then they always die. They always fucking die.
They always old yeller them bastards.
Jesus.
I mean, it doesn't unfortunately happen to Air Bud though. Air
Well,
Bud,
and I
Air
guess-
Bud
Is
never
that the
dies.
same golden retriever?
I'm sure it's not, but
Got 9
Air
lives.
Bud never dies though.
That's true.
Unless he's like Jason Voorhees or something like that.
I think maybe it's
awesome.
just the easy emotional choice to make as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think to a certain extent I can't blame them. As somebody, my wife and I have lost 3 cats in the last 2 years. And we've talked a lot lately about how much that fucking sucks. But it's not going to deter us from getting another cat down the road. There's a beauty in owning a pet, and yeah, they always die before you do. That's kind of how it works. So I can't necessarily blame movies for doing that. It's just,
It does seem to be the crutch that they get
I mean,
on.
we all know that dog's going to die eventually. You don't got to show. It's like showing me Lincoln's death at the end of Spielberg's Lincoln. Like, I knew that was coming. That's not part of the story you're telling.
Wait a minute, Lincoln dies at the end of Lincoln?
Fucking spoilers, man.
Yeah, fuck me. I guess I don't have to watch
Shortly
that.
after he slaps Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the face. You forgot Joseph Gordon-Levitt was even in that movie.
I
didn't
did.
you? Yeah, most people do.
Then there's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Fantastic movie.
Woo, this movie's good.
Yeah.
it's a
Coen Brothers again.
Coen's again.
God, I know Fargo's always up there with me. We've talked about Raising Arizona before, but this is really vying for like the top tier of my Coen's fandom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just that it came out at the perfect time or that I've watched it so many times
It's
that
the music.
It's the music, but I like all the shit. I think I like that there's so many like little subplots to all the different characters. The guy with the sunglasses, the blind oracle that takes them down the train tracks and everything. You know, the Cyclops that John Goodman plays. Like all these little characters, the sirens.
Yeah.
He got kidnapped by some sirens.
Yeah.
And turned into a horny toad. I fucking love this movie. There's so much to just get into. Every time you watch it, you'll see something new. And yes, the music is always like awesome.
That reminded of that part in the theater and everything. And he's like, "Do not seek the treasure." And he's like, "We thought you was a toad." And then he's like, "Do not seek the treasure."
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's not like a great. I mean, it's not like this big story, really, per se. But like, it's well acted. It's well written.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny.
Babyface Nelson, like Holly Hunter's character,
Yeah.
like the guy who plays the fellow that plays the guitar.
Yeah.
Did you call Tim Blake Nelson Babyface Nelson?
No. It's George Babyface Nelson is the robber that
the
they
Michael
meet up with.
Battaluccio character? I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
but
Tim
Tim
Blake-
Blake Nelson's in this movie
Yes.
too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. God, I got really confused there for a second.
Yeah.
And this is the guy who sings in this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't know him well, but I've run into him many
Yeah,
times.
because George Clooney wanted to sing in this part, and apparently he's got a decent voice, but they were like, no.
Yeah.
We're going to get Dan Tominski to sing
get
your
Dan
part.
Tominski in there, and yeah, he nailed it. And
Oh,
that's
man.
the song that you remember the most from "Oh Brother Where Art Thou."
Well, partly because they play it up the most, but yeah, you do. That's probably the most memorable song off that soundtrack.
yeah,
There was kind of like because T-Bone Burnett did the soundtrack to this, and there was like a bluegrass boom after this, like Alison Krauss and Union Station.
Still is. I bet you there's an "Oh Brother," some kind of economy
Festival
out there.
or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I'm telling you, I bet
Maybe.
there is. Whether it's concerts or like this, I bet you the symphony every couple of years gets Alison Krauss out there and does some kind of "Oh Brother," what have you.
Mm-hmm. Well, brother, what have you?
The sequel to "Oh Brother, Where Art
This is
Thou?"
like that whole thing too, where she tells Clooney, Holly Hunter tells Clooney, "This is what I want," and out of all this, and she wants the roll top desk was the big thing. Want my roll top desk?
Well, because the ring is in there.
Yeah,
right?
the ring's in there, and like sort of they have that big flood scene that happens and everything, and then they emerge from the water, and it's like, where do you think that came from? It's like, well, I tell you what happened. George Clooney has an answer for everything, and he's like, I think they're going to be bringing hydroelectric power down here, and everybody's going to be paying electricity on a paying business and all that, and he goes, hey, there's Tommy, and Tommy, he's like, what are you riding on there, Tommy? Roll top desk.
I love this movie so
I
much.
know it's so funny and entertaining all the way through. It's
Yep.
such a good movie. Then I know you've seen this because you're a Goldie Hawn person.
Mhm.
Private Benjamin. I've
Yeah.
never seen this.
Oh, it's good. Goldie Hawn had this career of playing rich, privileged, beautiful women that get knocked down a peg.
Yeah.
Like happened in Overboard.
Right.
And same thing here. Like she enlists in the army for reasons, but she's like a rich socialite and all that stuff. And she goes down to Mississippi to do basic training. And
Biloxi?
And Biloxi, yeah.
Yeah. All
Same
right.
thing as Biloxi Blues.
That's what I thought.
And she ends up liking it. And then there's this whole like romantic comedy aspect to it. But she has like some weight to her, like some dramatic weight to her in this movie.
I'm glad you added the word dramatic.
Some weight to her.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's very good.
Yeah.
I like me some Goldie Hawn.
Yeah. It's just for whatever reason, a lot of her movies just slipped on by.
Me too.
And then we have The Sound and the Fury, a William Faulkner. There's 2 William Faulkner adaptations, maybe even more. I don't know.
I think it also involves like a young girl that's people are vying for her
yeah.
affection. Although I think Yul Brynner plays like her uncle or her custodian or something like that. Maybe he's trying to fend off. But yeah, so that version exists. I think it like 1959, and then James Franco got his hands on it in 2014 and tried to do it. Never saw that version.
Who's in that? I saw that. Wait,
Franco?
Who's in that? I did see this. Is this like a colonial?
I mean, it's like plantation style.
I saw this.
It's Scott Hayes, Anna O'Reilly, Joey King, Tim Blake Nelson.
Joey King. I think I did see this, and it was forgettable.
No, Danny McBride is in it. Seth Rogen is in it. I guess they called in favors. Loretta Devine.
Have you ever read the book?
A long time ago.
Yeah. Was it? Did you like it?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
I
were
was
you too
into,
young to really.
No. I read it probably in college. I went through like a Southern writer phase when I was reading a lot of Larry Brown, and Faulkner and stuff like that. And it was interesting. You really like go into that mindset, that whole like Southern mentality when you read these books, and where there's different rules. And I don't mean that in a terrible way, but like the way people interact, the way that how much they drink, that kind of thing. Like it just seems like a different universe, and this is kind of in that.
I like the sound better than the Fury.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, I love the Fury.
No, you're wrong.
Then there is Straw Dogs, which I don't think I've seen either version of Straw Dogs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Sam Peckinpah did the first one.
Right, and that was set in England.
Yeah,
too.
and then somebody random did this. I mean, like somebody you've heard of before did the last Straw Dogs, but it's like, really?
It was Rod Lurie.
Yeah.
Rod Lurie.
Yeah, Rod Lurie.
Who directed you
Yeah, who directed me.
in The Last Castle.
That's right. We'll get to that sometime.
So I've seen this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
remake?
The remake. The one with
James Marsden and
Surfer Girl.
Kate Bosworth.
Kate Bosworth.
Yeah.
I almost said
was
Lois
like,
Lane.
Well, I was sitting there going, Anna Sophia Robb? But she's probably too young for a 2011 Straw Dogs.
Yeah, and I've said this before, and I know there's no logic, but my brain has filed this alongside 5 or 6 other horror movies from the aughts made with hot, famous people. Like that Vacancy with Kate Beckinsale and Timothy Oliphant one. And they all run together because at this point in my life, I simply wasn't watching horror movies. There was no reason. I watched them today because I've come to appreciate the really good ones, and I watch them for Sin's purposes, and so I can make references to them for Sin's purposes. But another hot person and somebody's attacking them, and the Crazies, the one with the masks and Liv Tyler.
Oh, the Strangers.
I
understand that, especially around this time. The first one, the original with Dustin Hoffman, was considered a classic, really.
Yeah.
Because it's a revenge fantasy, essentially, right? The guy is,
back in the 70s, if some shit happened to you, you were getting revenge.
yeah. But he's like this, I know this term is like cuckolded husband.
Oh, yeah.
Who finally like grows a pair and starts like killing people that did terrible things to his wife. And I think the same thing happens here with James Marsden.
Yeah, that's Alexander Skarsgård.
But he doesn't know, to my recollection, that stuff happened.
I don't think until later on.
Until halfway through the movie or so, right? Because to him, it's just, these people who knew my wife from when she used to live here are acting really weird. And now they're acting violent. And then I think later he finds out that they did some shady shit.
Yep. And then he kills the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Then there is A Time to Kill. So I'm trying to remember if I like this movie or not. So this was John Grisham's first big best-selling novel. And we saw The Firm first, and then we saw The Client. And apparently, after seeing The Client, he's like, yes, Joel Schumacher, you must be the one to direct my prized #1 best-selling novel that everybody wants to see. Another racism movie. Yep. This one... Yeah, it's an awful story. I mean, it's two white guys rape this was I guess an 8 or 9 year old black
super
girl,
young,
and they're about to go free over it, or it's the whispers are that they're going to go free because of the jury pool that they're going to have to deal with and everything. Samuel L. Jackson is the father of this kid, and he goes ahead and kills them at the courthouse. So the whole trial is it justified murder?
Right.
And the movie says yes.
And the movie says yes.
The movie does say yes.
And that is, oh man,
that is fucked up.
It's fucked up because while you might be satisfied that he did that, holy shit, what a terrible legal precedent that would set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
And I forget what McConaughey's argument is. the movie, and I think the book, frames it in a context to where it is a justifiable homicide according to some sort of law.
I'll tell you what he does.
I know what he does.
Yeah, he tells the mostly white jury to think of this girl being white.
He says the most graphic description of what happened to her, and then says, "Now imagine that girl was white."
Is that
Yeah.
the tipping point,
end.
though?
That's it.
That's the end of it. That closes his argument out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have there's a scene in there where Chris Cooper is like because he gets shot in the middle of all that where Samuel Jackson's killing the other guys. And so he's on the trial, and he's up in the box as a witness against Carl Lee Haley and everything. But he flips the script midway through, and he's like, "I have a little girl, and if somebody had done that to my girl, I'd kill him just like Carl Lee did." And blah blah blah. And there's Kevin Spacey is really just evil.
Oh,
I mean,
he's slimy as shit, man.
There's a point where I guess they're saying like, "Oh yeah, what a everybody's basically saying Carl Lee Haley did this. They did not see him kill all
Mm-hmm.
He's killed in front of millions of witnesses."
Yeah, all right.
And I think he's talking to he went to, this is a part it was in the Chris Cooper part, because Samuel Jackson apparently Carl Lee goes up to him and says, "I'm sorry for shooting you," or whatever. And Kevin Spacey's like, "Oh, so he admitted shooting you."
And we haven't even mentioned Donald Sutherland, Oliver Platt, and Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
All
tell
of
you
them were
what,
in this movie.
Ashley
Judd.
This movie's sweaty.
It's
Yes,
the
it is.
sweatiest movie.
Everybody's
Yeah.
fucking
Oh, yeah.
slick, man. It's
But
like
it's
they walked
like
out of a pool.
I mean, I hate to say this about a movie that's covering racism, but it's a sexy kind of sweat.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like Sandra Bullock, Ashley Judd, they're looking pretty cute in this movie, man.
they do. And there's scenes in there where McConaughey and Bullock are like working real late at night and everything,
Yeah,
and
and
she
pouring sweat.
pouring sweat, and she's like, "So, do you think I should stay?" Because it's really like getting to that point where they're gonna have to fuck.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yes." So I guess you better go.
Yeah.
Oh, and Kiefer. I forgot Kiefer's in this.
Well, and Kiefer is like an awful racist in this movie, and there's like a scene that's completely unnecessary where they strip Sandra Bullock down and tie her to like a telephone pole and say that the animals are going to get to her and all this other stuff. I don't believe that was in the book.
No.
I think they just threw that in there because we need more evil people in this fucking movie. This was so Matthew McConaughey had done Dazed and Confused, and he'd become, this rising star and everything. Believe this was down to him or Woody Harrelson getting the Jake Brigance role in this, and McConaughey got it, and then they later appeared in Ed TV together.
Oh, yeah.
And True Detective.
And True Detective, of course. I don't know what to think of this because the actors are great in it. It's a great story. But its conclusions, are just they're wrong.
They're absolutely 100% factually wrong.
Yeah.
Now imagine she's white.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good impression.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good impression. And
He's got this whole mouth breather thing in this movie where, he knows he's good looking. He knows he's all sweated up and everything. He's like lubed up his arms with butter and shit like that.
Right.
And he's just like, he's so impressed with himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm gonna turn this jury right here.
Yeah.
That's good.
By the way, I don't know if this was the beginning of it, but it may be a bunch of McConaughey roles that do this. But remember how True Detective was, where a lot of it was a lot of him whispering, talking about it. This new movie that's coming out called Serenity, which is another movie called Serenity.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
yeah.
joy.
Yeah.
But it's him and Anne Hathaway, and she wants him to go and kill her husband or something
Really?
like that.
Another
Have you not seen this trailer?
Ah.
It's all through the trailer. It's just, Matthew McConaughey is living a life basically of acting where he's just like, and that's what he's getting by with these days. He's like Tom Hardy with no enunciation.
yeah, well, yeah, we worked for Bob Dylan.
Yeah, it did.
For
It
quite a
did.
long time.
It did.
I think that's what he's going for, right?
Yeah.
Then finally we have The War, the Elijah Wood, Kevin Costner movie.
Yeah.
I saw this when it came out. I haven't seen it since, and it was like 93, 94. when it came out.
94. I feel like this movie's depressing as fuck.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
This movie is running together with the Clint Eastwood movie.
A Perfect World.
World.
Yeah.
I can't tell them apart right now.
But this was a treehouse war movie. Like,
right, yeah.
Yeah.
like a family film.
Yeah, although, but
No,
yeah,
I mean, it's
not like ha 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 hitting you with a balloon.
No,
gotcha.
More like the stepmom.
More like stepmom. More like the good son.
I guarantee you, somebody falls out of that tree and has a spinal injury.
I think it's in like a water containment thing, like one of those water towers, and somebody almost drowns. The main thing about this is Elijah Wood, like it was one of his first big roles in like where he really killed it. So he got a lot of accolades for that. Costner was being Costner and hero bullshit. Yeah. I think he dies. He does. He dies.
I just remember being excited about this because I thought it was going to be super fun and it was going to be like this, battle of treehouse movies or whatever. And it really wasn't like that. So here's the rundown of the ones we didn't put in the list here. Crimes of the Heart. I never saw that. Diane Keaton, Sissy Spacek, and Jessica Lange.
That's a pretty good cast.
That is a good cast. I never saw Crimes of the Heart though.
Me
Do
neither.
you know what it's about at all?
No.
Somebody probably got their heart crimed.
No, I hate it when my heart is crying. That's a whole day at the doctor.
They're three sisters who reunite in Mississippi. Yay.
Okay. The infamous Crossroads, which I never saw. Britney Spears movie.
No. This is not the Britney Spears movie.
Damn it!
Not?
I want to talk about that movie. I've
See,
seen it.
it would have made sense because Britney, isn't she from Mississippi?
Louisiana.
Oh, Louisiana.
Yeah,
But she could
close
pull
enough.
off Mississippi.
So it's not the. When did this come out?
This came out in 1986. It's a coming of age musical drama film. It's
Rob
based
Macchio.
on. Yeah, it's based on Robert Johnson. Yeah.
I've seen this.
The Devil at the Crossroads.
Yeah. Kind of like the Oh Brother Where Art Thou and everything. Yeah.
You seen this?
I saw it. I mean,
it
I saw it probably in the 80s. But
Did you see the Britney Spears version?
Yeah, that's why I was excited.
She
to talk
also
about
was
that
tempted
movie.
by the devil.
I'm telling you, man.
Crossroads.
Is not 100% irredeemable.
Oh yeah.
Zoe Saldana's in it.
Oh, that's true.
Is that the only reason why it's 100% irredeemable?
Well, there's also a part where they put on sexy outfits and group karaoke. Pour some sugar on me
In their hotel room?
Yeah.
No, in a bar.
Oh yeah.
That is.
It's not a bad scene.
That is a movie that I wanted to see strictly for that reason, but I didn't watch.
It's a breezy 92 minutes, probably.
Yeah.
Get in and out.
It's one of those.
Anson Mount.
That's one of
is in it.
those. That's what. Yeah, Anson Mount. That's one of those funny. That's one of those movies that came out back in the day. Like Honey or Glitter. Or,
From Justin to Kelly.
Yeah, from Justin to
I'm
Kelly.
just saying, Zoe Saldana right now is probably one of the top 3 grossing stars in all of Hollywood, just because of her Star Trek and Marvel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you're always going to be able to make fun of her by saying you were at Crossroads.
That's true. Then there's Down in the Delta. Maya Angelou directed that.
Yeah, I
never saw it.
I don't know if she's directed anything else.
They should have sent a poet.
Yeah.
They should have said a poem.
They did.
Free State of Jones. I did not see that either. The
I
Matthew
saw this.
McConaughey movie.
We're all over
Is
Matthew
it any good?
McConaughey. It has television movie production values. It's just like I think if I'm right, it's this town that wants to be Union that's stuck on the other side of the Confederate border, and people keep stealing their chickens. I don't know, it's something like that. I remember thinking McConaughey's way too good for this shit.
It looked awful, and I think it got delayed in production because he saw trailers for like a fucking year.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was coming out in October or something like that, and then it got pushed to January or March or something.
But he's
like that.
basically the guy. He's the William Wallace that bands together the poor oppressed people. to
William
fight back.
Wallace.
Take up arms against the people who are fucking you.
And never take our freedom.
Yes.
Who are you doing an impression of?
McConaughey.
Oh, as William Wallace. Freedom.
I'm going to pick a fight.
Then there's The Hollers. You said it says John Krasinski's
Yeah.
first. Is that his directorial debut?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
I watched this actually because of the woman whose name I always forget from season 2 of the Kentucky Show, who's on the BoJack Show, and they always call her by name.
Oh, Margot
Margot
Martindale.
Margot Martindale. I watched it because she's in it.
Is it any good?
Yeah, it's okay.
No.
It's like any going home, someone's sick, Thanksgiving time,
Nice.
dad's dying, whatever it is. Like, I think it's a parent that's dying, and so the family reunites In the hollers.
In the hollers.
Where they all grew up.
The hollers with an A, not
it's
with an
as
E.
good as any of those movies can be.
All right.
Then there's the Horse Soldiers. That's a John Wayne movie, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the 12 Strong movie.
It's not the recently declassified
Yeah,
story of the
right.
horse soldiers.
Yeah. I never saw this either. Miss Firecracker. Never saw that. Tammy and the Bachelor. Nope. And Thieves Like Us, another Altman movie that I did not see.
Who's
One
in
of the
Thieves
few
Like Us?
times that you've written a rundown there where I haven't seen at least one of these movies.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how I missed both of those Robert Altman movies, but I have.
Who's in the Thieves Like Us movie? I feel like
I bet Elliot Gould's in it.
Keith Carradine, Shelley Duvall, Louise Fletcher, and Tom Skerritt.
Mm.
Yeah, I guess I
Came out in 1974. Okay, well, that's Mississippi.
Yep. We covered it.
Mississippi.
We covered it.
Thanks for coming with us on a trip to Sippy.
Yeah.
Out of all those, watch In the Heat of the Night, The Insider, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Change your life. Watch those movies.
Change your life.
And what, next will be Missouri?
Yep. Missouri.
Missouri. And right in the middle of America.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't looked to see how many movies are set in Missouri. I'm sure. I don't know how many are set in like St. Louis or like where this Sharp Objects is set in Missouri, right? Yeah, I think it is.
Could have fooled me.
And
It's like any tiny town USA.
Yeah.
They're not
I
playing
think that Netflix show Ozark is in Missouri.
That's Aaron Dicer's home state, right?
It is.
Yeah.
All right, so are we going to rant about some shit?
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I'm as mad as hell!
You've never seen me very upset.
Yes, let's rant. We're locked and loaded today, man.
Okay, go for it.
All right. So, you remember these Comedy Central roasts that
I do.
used to happen like once a fucking week
I do.
a few years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever like any of those?
No.
Yeah, there was one.
There's
Which
been a
one
couple
was
of funny ones. The Charlie Sheen one I think was kind of funny. There was a
The
Trump
Bieber
roast.
one.
Yeah, the Bieber one I think was the most recent one, where it
But
was like Pete Davidson and
For the
fucking-
most part, no, they're not. They're not good. I mean, you get. It depends on who you get.
Mm-hmm.
If you get somebody like Anthony Jeselnik up there, then it's all funny
Mhm.
all the time because that's his thing is and he's perfect at it. And Jeffrey Ross himself is good at it. But then there was one, who was it that they got like Pauly B from
The
Jersey?
Situation.
They got the Situation.
They got Mike the Situation, whatever.
Yeah, for
They
one
had
of them.
fucking Martha Stewart on the Bieber one.
Well, Martha Stewart actually isn't the worst offender. Like, she can actually deliver lines.
But they
So-
got the Situation for one of them, and
Right.
he got up there and he bombed more horribly than I have seen anybody bomb
Mhm.
in anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
And
apparently...
Jeffrey Ross had to come up there and put his arm around him and was like, "Yeah, you just go on, man. Everything's just fine. Go."
well, they just did Bruce Willis this weekend, and I don't know when it's coming out.
It's I think it's July 29th or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, and they Entertainment Weekly or whatever gave the rundown of like the worst jokes and the funniest jokes and the biggest burns and shit like that. And like I've always had a bit of a problem with these roasts, especially when they bring out like I think it was Alec Baldwin and they brought out like his daughter to do some shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when you get to that territory, like apparently they bring out Demi Moore to roast Bruce Willis. And she makes jokes, of course they're all pre-written jokes and everything, but about their marriage
Yeah.
that like have, actual like punch because it's about like little things in their marriage. And like that just fucking makes me uncomfortable, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to like, okay, yeah, Anthony Jeselnik or Jeffrey Ross or something like that making fun of the dais. Like the old Friars Club roasts with like, the Rat Pack and fucking Sinatra and Johnny Carson and all those guys. Like that was much more lighthearted. It wasn't mean-spirited. The ones these days are too mean-spirited for me.
Yeah.
And apparently this is no different. It's going to be even worse. And it's like, I'm not down with that. And then also apparently Dennis Rodman is one of the roasters for Bruce
and
Willis.
He apparently bombs pretty
He
hard,
apparently
too.
bombs really hard. And it's like, why do I even want to watch that though?
Yeah.
I could tell you
Well,
that he's
and-
going to bomb.
And it was, I think it was Cat Williams who was on one of these, the Flava Flav one, and he didn't have very kind words to say about the process either. And it seemed like to him, from Cat Williams' perspective, that a lot of these white comedians were just gonna had free range to say whatever they wanted to because it's a roast. And Cat Williams it's a funny bit in his stand up where he's like, yeah, all these guys came out here and they were all saying this and that, but they're saying all this racist stuff, but in the name of jokes. And, hardly any of us are getting any kind of time going up there and saying our own thing. But he came up to Flava Flav afterwards, and he's like, he wanted to ask him, what do you feel? What do you think about that? That was like some of the most racist shit ever and all that or whatever. And he's like, hey, man, they're paying me for this. Yeah. And he's like, I didn't think I'd ever be able to learn anything from Flava Flav. but yeah, it is mean-spirited, and they bring up things that are, I believe, touchy.
Yeah.
And shouldn't. I mean,
I know it's everything go or anything goes.
You have to cross the line, but it seems like that James Franco one.
Yeah.
Like everything was about, oh, he's gay.
Right.
Like, oh, look at how many gay things he's done or whatever. And that's like the only joke the entire time. And they told a joke about Aziz Ansari, and Aziz Ansari came up and he's like, you still telling 7-Eleven jokes? Yeah. It's like 2013 or whatever. It's like that was back in the 80s. Yeah. Those were retired.
I feel like this is like a license to go over the line and just say whatever you want to. And yeah, there may be a place for that, but I'm not cool with it.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with that.
Well, and it's just been so. I have a feeling like when it started back in whenever, the 40s, the first famous people roast each other thing, I bet it was off the cuff. Mm-hmm. I bet it wasn't pre-scripted. I bet everyone was laughing the entire time. And now it's just been commoditized or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's marketed and packaged, and it feels very similar to me to that fucking rap battle game show.
Yeah.
That just grates on my... Why would I want to spend 30 minutes watching two famous people poorly rap lyrics somebody else wrote for them, and they spent half a day rehearsing?
Well, and even Comedy Central has Roast Battle with Jeffrey Rush.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You ever watch that?
Those are pretty... Those are all right. Those are all right. I mean, those are two people that... Those are people that are hired because they're funny or whatever. Most of them... I guess there's half of them are celebrities or are stand-up comics, and the other half are like either aspiring stand-up comics or whatever. They're pretty good, actually. And I think they're more palatable because it's not like people going into like Charlie Sheen's, sordid past and everything. If you want to, I think when you cross the line, maybe you stick with the bad acting or the bad movies and stuff
not like
that.
There's not plenty of evidence.
Right. And I don't know. Maybe it's not much of a show if they don't go there. And I know what you're saying. At the same time, I don't know if there's any way they can get around it.
No, if anything, they're going to get worse and worse and more over the line.
Yeah.
So what does Bruce Willis have coming up that he's promoting?
I don't know. I mean, they do these at weird times. Like the Alec Baldwin one was weird. The Justin Bieber one was weird. The Trump one was weird. It was just like...
See, I don't know about that. I feel like the Bieber one happened at a time in his career where he had a lot of negative press. And he fucking publicly begged Seth Rogen to come on there and roast him, and Rogen wouldn't do it. And it was clear to me that Bieber was doing this to show he could laugh at himself, and he wasn't taking everything so serious. This was a PR move.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering what the PR move for Bruce Willis is. He's not in the middle of any bad news that I know of.
I don't know.
Maybe something's about to break.
I don't know.
Secret
Maybe the whole 11
child.
yard is going
up. No idea.
I don't know. All right. What are you doing now? Oh, you want to rant?
Every once in a while, I have to come back to just rude people. I did it basically last week, but we all know going to movie theaters the only good thing about it is getting to watch the movie and maybe being with people that you haven't hung out with, but everything else about it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes to show how spoiled I was for as long as I was to be able to watch movies by myself and not worry about other people and everything. But there is this thing that keeps happening to me when I go to movies. The people who come in late somehow have some entitlement to say as loudly as possible, well, where do you want to sit?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And then they'll sit down and they got their popcorn and all this other stuff. They're opening that shit up and they have other conversations they were finishing out in the concessions that they got to finish that up.
Can you put my purse over there on that seat next to you?
Yeah. Well, we didn't get a chance to finish this out in the hallway. So why not here 10 minutes into the movie?
It's almost like, because I feel like in general, I totally get what you're saying. I hate this. I feel like in general, there's a shared understanding that some measure of talking, phone use, and package noise is acceptable, certainly during the slide presentation or that fucking Regal TV shit they show before, and even during the trailers and the policy trailer. But once the movie starts, you shut the fuck up. And it sounds like these are people who want the 20-minute sound buffer, but they want to start it when the movie starts.
That's
at
the
their
way I feel.
convenience.
And that is not the way
That's
it works.
the way I feel it is. They missed out on that.
Yeah.
So now they're entitled to have that when they come in. And it happens every time. And you also get, because people are late to the movie, it's this kind of person who's late to the movie who's also more likely to be in a distraction throughout the movie. Like, whisper loudly to people. By the way, all you out there who fucking whisper during movies, you have no idea how loud you are. Like I can hear you whispering. Like, the fact that I can't hear what you're saying is even more annoying. Yeah. Because all I hear is, you're like Matthew McConaughey in all of his movies. You know?
It's just freedom, man.
Yeah, exactly. So that's happened quite a lot. This happened in all movies. I think it was Won't You Be My Neighbor.
Oh, really?
And it was,
oh my God.
And it was like a good 10 minutes into it. And the people walked in, and I know that one of them needed help down the stairs because she was older and everything. And that's fine. But the whole, like, well, where do you want to sit and all that? Why can't that be a little bit lower? Why can't you go up to the ear and go, well, where do you want to sit? You know, instead of like, well, you know, I have no other option here than to just yell out what we're doing.
During a movie about manners and kindness and stuff like that.
Exactly. And it's like, you people are just going to have to deal with it.
All right, I got my rant.
All right.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Enough with the fucking avocados. I don't know if this is just America, but they're putting avocado in fucking everything. Now, I first started to take notice of this when my wife kind of got me into sushi about 6-8 weeks ago. And it's very hard for me if I go to like a Publix or Kroger or Whole Foods to find a sushi in that grab and go that they've made that day. It's fairly fresh. It's going to taste good, but that doesn't have avocado in it.
What's your thing with avocados?
It's a tasteless lump of mush. If you eat avocado straight without seasoning it and adding in vegetables to make guacamole, it's just useless. It might as well be fucking tofu. And I get that you like it and it's healthy and I don't know, it's got fatty acids or whatever the fuck we like. But now you can't go to a restaurant without seeing it on the menu for a burger, a club sandwich, every fucking salad that they make. This breakfast place my wife and I like to go to, half the fucking dishes have avocado. They have a BLT with avocado. I go to Which I want to get a BLT, comes with avocado. Fucking enough. Who do the avocado farmers have naked pictures of?
You don't feel like avocado has like an avocado-y taste to it?
It doesn't, not enough to put it on everything.
See, I got to disagree with you.
You can have a trend like a hot chicken trend, but you don't see hot chicken on fucking everything. You don't see a shrimp roll with hot chicken in it. You don't see an omelet with hot chicken in it. You don't see a hot chicken
sounds delicious,
top
actually.
burger. Fuck you, man. You're killing my point here. Avocado is not good enough on its own to warrant being put in fucking everything.
No, I understand. There's an overprevalence of avocado.
Yes, that's all I'm trying to say.
I got you.
That's all I'm trying to say.
I merely add salt to my avocado, and that's enough for me to like it. Now, yeah, you're right. It's everywhere. They had that whole. I think what backs up your point is a couple of years ago there was that whole commercial where the two women were like fighting over how much they liked avocado. Like,
yeah, that's right.
They were basically saying, you know, I like it more, and they were showing all the different avocado accessories they had and all that. Funny commercial, but come on, it's goddamn avocado. You know,
it's everywhere. It doesn't need to be in as many places as it is.
I got you.
And I think there's a conspiracy afoot.
I think so too. I think you're right.
All right, good rants.
Yeah. So recommends and warns.
Yeah.
Recca warns and warn-amends.
Totes amazeballs.
They're great.
It won the Academy Award
Oh, for what?
for best movie ever made.
You know, I feel like I've gotten more excitement in planning Rec-A-Warns than I am for recommends and or warns. I'll go ahead and start because I accidentally onto this movie recently called Consenting Adults.
Oh, yeah.
You ever seen this movie?
Is this
the
Patrick
one with
Bergen's in it?
Kevin Spacey?
Kevin Spacey, Kevin Kline,
Kevin Kline.
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Oh, man. I love me some Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. I love me some MEM.
She's truly outrageous.
That's right.
And Rebecca Miller and early young Forrest Whitaker, too.
Oh. Younger than Color of Money, Forrest Whitaker?
No, because this is 1992. Yeah. Okay, so this was, I don't know, Alan Pakula. Pakula or Pakula?
It's Alan J. Pakula, I believe.
Pakula.
Yeah.
Okay, who's done like amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Right? He did To Kill a Mockingbird. He was All the President's Men, Sophie's Choice, like all this stuff. This movie is fucking bonkers. It is awful. It's maybe the worst movie I've ever seen.
Really?
Because if taken at face value, this movie wants to be Hitchcock. What it is Kevin Spacey playing a next door neighbor who's maybe a little bit slimy, but he wants to do a little wife swapping because he likes Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, and Kevin Kline likes his wife. And there's a thing where he looks at Kevin Kline, is like, "You want to fuck my wife, don't you?" And Kevin Kline, as he is one of the most expressive comedic actors ever, sits there stone-faced throughout 90% of this movie.
Oh, really? I think this, by the way, is why I thought Patrick Bergen might be in this movie because Kevin Kline looks a lot like him, right?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
With the mustache.
Yeah.
He's got the mustache. And so you think, okay, skeezy Kevin Spacey wants to do a wife swap. By the way, they want to do the wife swap without the wives knowing while they're asleep,
right?
By the way.
Right.
So it's like never mind, I can't think of the name. That train movie Dicer made me watch, the Hitchcock made, where they vow to kill each other's wives.
Strangers on a Train.
Strangers on a Train.
Strangers on a Train, only with sex.
With sex.
Yeah.
You think that's where it ends. It's not where it ends. That's like the first half of the movie. Then the movie goes completely off the rails, involving murders and baseball bats and body doubles and all kinds of crazy shit. Once again, trying to be Hitchcock,
right.
But it's so fucking absurd. It's absolutely absurd. The reason that I Rec-A-Warn this movie is that it's gorgeously shot. It's shot like The Untouchables. Like, it's got beautiful panning shots, wide things coming in, a lot of imagery with using windows and stuff like that. It is gorgeous, and especially in its restored version, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's got amazing people in it. You know, typically Kevin Kline is fantastic. Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio is fantastic.
Yeah.
Kevin Spacey is Kevin Spacey, but he's a good actor, especially in the 90s.
Yeah.
This is this is wild. I would say it's worth watching just to laugh. In fact, I was looking it up. Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel disagreed vehemently on this movie. Siskel hated it.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And Roger Ebert liked it only because he was halfway through. He decided to view it as a comedy.
This is why. Yeah.
Which is the way to do this.
This is why I always preferred Ebert and the Siskel and Ebert stuff. Siskel didn't ever seem to have a sense of humor about how he watched movies.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many of them on some movies that are just classics to me, where he's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't think it was all that good." You know, I mean, it's all right and everything. And when you said Siskel and Ebert, I was like, I bet Ebert liked this, and I bet Siskel just dismissed it as just trash.
Yeah.
Which is his right,
and it is trash.
Yeah.
He's right. They're both right.
Yeah.
And the only way to get through this movie, I laughed out loud more at this movie than I did Blockers. Swear to God, watched it by myself, just sitting there like cracking up because the next bonkers thing kept happening. It
Sounds
was like
my experience with Law-Abiding Citizen. Like something that's trying to be serious gets so ridiculous that you end up having a ton of fun with it.
Yeah. Oh, and it's so gorgeously shot. It's the definition of a Rec-A-Warn for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going to recommend this documentary on HBO, Robin Williams.
God
Come Inside
damn
My
it.
Mind.
This is why I need to do show prep.
Yeah.
That was going to be my recommend, but you're right. It's awesome. Go for it.
It's really good because it's got a lot of footage I've never seen before. Robin Williams, especially one section where they show him just saying stuff off the cuff on Mork and Mindy that could never air, obviously. But just like go when he at the end of Mork and Mindy, he'd always go and tell the alien guy like what he learned and everything, and like whoever's playing the alien guy flubs a line or whatever. It's like you got the fucking script right in front of you or something like that. And but just. I've seen some other documentary on Robin Williams, and I couldn't figure out which one it was.
There's one on Reels, actually. I just saw this like maybe a week ago that features Leonard Maltin very prominently.
Oh, really?
What they did, and it's an interesting documentary. This is why I haven't watched the HBO version yet, because I just saw this. Mm-hmm. It's got some really good information. It's got like a bunch of interviews with like Jay Thomas and with Robin Williams' first wife, or like people that were in his life. But they didn't have access to a lot of footage. Mm-hmm. It would just be little snips of like Good Morning Vietnam or Mork and Mindy or something like that. So this sounds like it's a lot more footage heavy.
Yeah, they have. There's a section where they show he's actually studying acting before he even gets into stand up comedy and everything. And there's a shot of him and his acting troupe going to like Edinburgh, Scotland, or something like that to play in. It's Taming of the Shrew, I think. It's one of those Shakespeare plays, and apparently they were really good and whatever. This was like 1971, and there's like footage of Robin Williams partying with people and stuff in 1971, and then it slowly gets to him doing his stand-up act and everything, and it's I guess it's got all three of his wives in this, or is it just the two? I don't think her second wife is in this.
I don't think she's interviewed.
The first one is.
That first one hung on for a lot longer than you'd think she would.
Yeah, well, and she even brings up the point that he like does a stand-up act, and he was like hanging out with girls and taking them to hotels and stuff, and she's like, I want him to do that. I just want him to come back home. Is all I cared about. I don't think it. And I'm glad it doesn't do this. A lot of times a documentary like this will try to go, why? Why does somebody like this commit suicide and everything like that? And Bobcat Goldthwait has sort of an idea about why that is towards the end, because he and Bobcat were friends and everything. But I thought it was interesting just seeing his life all the way through this, who he was friends with at the time. Like when he was Mork and Mindy famous, hanging out with De Niro and Belushi, he was actually that night with Belushi when he died.
He left like an hour or so before, right? And then like called or something like that.
Pam Dauber, who was on Mork and Mindy, told him that, and Robin Williams was like, I was with him last night. I was with him last night, and apparently that scared him sober for a while. Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing. I'm not even going to come up with another recommend. I'll just weigh in on this one because it's so good. But the movie doesn't pull as many punches as you might expect a movie like this to pull. There are people who loved him who are interviewed who talk openly about his alcoholism and how it was a struggle, or how his constant need to be on, and it wasn't purely selfless. It was almost, one guy I think even outright calls it selfish, that he needed to have people laughing at what he said.
Yeah,
he needed
it's like
to
a
be
drug
on
itself.
and be, yeah. And so the documentary, I was happy to see that, and I would consider it more of a retrospective than a documentary, because it's really a collection of footage, audio, and interviews. But for me, the most touching part was listening to the voicemails that he had left for Billy Crystal in various voices and characters.
Oh, really?
Throughout they play two of them from start to finish, and they talk about a few others that he would just occasionally call and leave this. He was like, "Hey, this is Lou, the AC man," or whatever. I don't know what the character was, but he would leave these full voicemails for his friend Billy Crystal. I also didn't realize, it makes sense to me, but I didn't realize exactly how close those two were.
Yeah.
You could
was it them that did the comic relief with Whoopi Goldberg?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of footage of
and
that.
that was all about for homeless people, comic relief.
Yeah. But I didn't realize, you could have subtitled the movie. You didn't realize he was this good of friends with Billy Crystal. But yeah, I was really moved by it. My wife, actually, I went in the other room. She was reading, and she said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I just watched a movie. I'll talk to you about it later." Because it not going to end on a happy note.
Yeah.
But there's other footage in there. I did not realize that he and Steve Martin did that Waiting for Godot.
Oh yeah.
Play or whatever.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And they show footage of them on stage together. And
What point was this? Was this early on?
This was like 1986 or 87,
Oh, wow.
somewhere around there. And there's a I love this too because they show some footage of them, I guess, after the show, and there's all these reporters asking them questions, and they're like, and somebody asks a really, I guess, condescending type question where it was like, do you get something out of this is this any different from your stand-up comedy or whatever? Asked Steve Martin and Robin Williams that. And Steve Martin's like, yes, this is very much different. This is theater. And you can tell in the play itself, there's some elements, I guess, of stand-up comedy, but it's not stand-up comedy.
No, fuck no.
And everything. But just watching Steve Martin just answer this guy, it's like, no, it's theater.
There's a lot of fun, candid footage. Like, there's a shot of right at the beginning of a press conference on the comic relief tour or whatever.
Oh, that's
There's
awesome.
a big, huge man standing in front of the podium, and nobody behind can see. And you hear somebody go, down in front, and all three of them, Whoopi, Billy Crystal, and Robin Williams, all three of them duck down below the podium.
Yeah.
Like they're the ones causing the problem.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
Yeah.
Glimpses into their real life that, I've never had. It's great, solid.
Does it go into that whole controversy or issue with Disney about Aladdin where he didn't want to be a part of the marketing at all? And they ended up having to apologize.
It does show him do some
of the voices,
but it doesn't talk about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out if it's worth it because I just saw that fairly recently, and that's a really good documentary, the one that's on Reels.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think probably it is cool to see the actual footage, and especially something like outtakes from working.
Yeah, when there's like stuff with Mrs. Doubtfire in there, and Patch Adams and everything, and just seeing him and Philip Seymour Hoffman like in this one raw footage thing of just him making everybody laugh and everything is great. And the movie tries a little bit to try to explain how his mind works so fast and like he's able to move from one thing to another and all that, but you can never really explain that. I don't think any of us understand how his mind worked.
I don't know, man.
I don't think it's possible. I think you're the closest person in here that could possibly even come close.
He in his early days, he used to single-handedly keep this club in San Francisco alive, right? Like there's the Comedy Store, or the Comedy Shop, or something like that.
He was at the Comedy Store a lot, but I don't know.
That was the one in L.A. There was a comedy club up in San Francisco that they were like, for weeks and weeks and weeks, we'd have nobody in here, and then we'd have Robin in here, and then, it would be a packed house, outside, people trying to listen to it and everything. Did you see him do stand-up live?
I did. I saw him at the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah.
With Jonathan.
Oh, was that funny?
I remember it being kind of funny. There were some moments. This is 2002 Robin Williams, so his stand-up at this point it's got a lot of the elements of that old Robin Williams in it, and there's some stuff that I remember from it. So that's something I can't say about every stand-up show that I've ever been to.
Yeah.
But there's stuff that I remember from it, and I thought it was funny. But I do remember at the time kind of going, yeah, it's a little bit off from what I think from his heyday, but it's still good.
Yeah. Fascinating dude, man.
Yeah.
Do we want to do another round of warns?
Yeah, I got one other one that I actually would like to talk about.
Do it, baby.
Me too.
This is a rec-a-warn, although I lean more towards recommend, but sorry to bother you.
Yeah, all right.
So we had a lot of interest in us doing a mini pod of this, and I was like, it's probably not going to happen, but I knew I was going to watch it sometime this past week. I feel like Sorry to Bother You has so many great ideas, but almost nothing that pays it off. Like, it doesn't earn it. There's at the very beginning, Lakeith Stanfield has just gotten this job that apparently almost anybody can get. They don't care what, they don't care. They just want people to come in. And so you see in the trailer, Danny Glover tells him to use his white voice. And so he starts using the white voice and everything. And then he becomes this instant megastar. Well, that's the first issue that I had with it. There's nothing about this character that tells you he's going to be a megastar and good at this, even if he uses his white voice, and he's immediately a star. Like, it's just like, hey, do this. And then there's like a montage essentially of him like doing awesome. And you're like, where'd this come from? I haven't even seen you be awesome like this yet. Then the workers, all the callers inside want to strike. And I missed why they really wanted to strike. I'm sure it was because of money and benefits, but I didn't really.
Lisa needs braces.
Yeah, exactly. So I missed that. So they all want to go on strike. The problem is that Lakeith Stanfield's character is a star, and he's about to be sent up to the place where they put all the good callers and everything, and he's going to get a promotion and all this other stuff. So he decides to be a scab and go across the picket line to go to this job, and so like that's his conflict. Now then there's more conflict once he gets to that upstairs thing. They're selling a different kind of product, and I will not divulge what that product is, but they're selling a different kind of product up there, and that is something that is going to be a huge conflict for him. But he's still good at what he does. And it gets deeper and deeper into like how fucked up this is and everything. And of course it's, there's a lot of funny stuff in it. This is why I would recommend there's some funny stuff. There's some weird things. It's a different movie. I feel like a lot of Mike Judge in this movie. There's a lot of Office Space. There's a lot of
that sold me on it more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Idiocracy type stuff in here. I feel like like I said, there's like ideas in here, and it may be a situation where they had a very low budget and they had to, they couldn't fill in a lot of gaps that they wanted to. Because this is something that if they fully flesh out, this is a classic, I think, in the making. But because there's so many things that just kind of jump cuts us to, let's get to the point of this movie and everything. I feel like there's some parts of it that don't hit as much as it could. So and that's without spoiling it. I could get into a lot of other things with spoilers, but that's the way I feel about it. I feel like this is a good thing with a lot of good stuff in it. I just wish there was a little bit more to it.
Interesting.
It kind of sounds like what you were suspecting last week.
I did have a couple people come on Twitter and say what you thought you were picking up on in the reviews is kind of probably right.
Where it seems like this has got some great ideas, and this is Boots Riley is somebody that could eventually make a masterpiece.
But this itself is not.
It's not all there, right?
Yeah. There's so many good ideas. Like a lot of the, if you watched a lot of 30 Rock at all, like Tina Fey a lot of times would, or the whole writing staff would, anytime they talked about what rich people do behind the scenes, they would always go like just deep off the deep end of what they're probably doing and stuff. Like the level of evil you think they are is even worse than you think. And that's what this movie is. It's like a big, it's like taking a Tina Fey punchline from 30 Rock and then actually turning it into reality and everything. And like I said, I'm going to watch this again at some point, but I do think that the flaws that I noticed in the first viewing are always going to be those kind of flaws.
Interesting.
And I don't think there's much I'm sure there's some gaps I can fill here and there in my imagination, but yeah, it's one of those, you're just rooting for it. It's just not all the way there.
I will freely admit the movie I'm about to warn you against is good. As is the lead performance, and that I didn't watch the whole thing.
All right.
Roman J. Israel Esquire.
I haven't seen this.
What a fucking asshole.
I saw a little bit of this.
I looked this up. I went Googling to see if this was based on a true story, because in my mind, there's no way you would write this guy to be this big of a dick unless the real guy. I don't think there's a real guy. I think this is a completely fictionalized person who's just an asshole.
Yeah.
Halfway through, I gave up because I had said too many times, God, what a dick. Like, he had zero niceness at all. I don't care what he does by the end of the movie. He spent so much of it being an asshole. I don't want to continue this journey. And I fucking love Denzel. He's great. He's a dick.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's it. He's basically this guy. The story, if you want to check it out, as I just told you not to, is he's the silent partner in this law firm, and his partner dies and the law firm gets purchased. So his partner did all the in-court stuff, all the face-to-face, all the human interaction stuff, and Roman J. Israel Esquire has just hid in a dusty office by his hate people self, never having to learn how to be nice or have common sense, and just doing all the paperwork. So he's got a tangible asset, his brain. He's really good at law, figuring out shit. But he has to now go and work with this huge corporation that has usurped his old firm, and he has to go to court, and he has to talk to clients and talk to other coworkers, and he's an asshole.
You should have stuck around for the redemptive arc.
I even said in my tweet, I was like, I'm sure there's some kind of redeeming thing, and everybody that responded was like, not as good as you need it to be. Like, it doesn't pay him off as well as it should. So anyway, I'm not going to finish that shit.
So they should just call this Roman J. Asshole
Esquire.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or Roman J. Israel Asshole.
Yeah.
Asquire.
Asquale.
I have a quick warn, and it's nothing you haven't heard before, but I caught Justice League on HBO the other day.
Why
did
did you
too.
catch that?
I did it too.
I'll tell you why. Because
Who's
you guys
catching this movie?
Because you guys liked this more than I did. Now, you gave it a D or something like that, and I gave it like an F minus.
I like the scene. Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, maybe I'm missing something on this, and I can't. Seeing this again, I don't know if this is what they were intentionally doing. It is so fucking cartoony. And it's so cartoony that I wonder if it's supposed to be this cartoony. During the action sets, they're not even trying to pretend that they know what they're doing. Like it's like watching an animated feature. And if they are going to go that route, and if they're going to inform Aquaman or whatever with that route going forward, just come out and say, like, this is what we're doing. We're going on the more cartoony side of this. Don't expect this to be a Marvel type of thing. I think this is purely by accident, and I think it's even worse watching it on the small screen versus when we saw it in the theater.
The problem is I think that DC or Warner's, one of the two, seems to think that cartoony equals fun. And
ain't nothing fun about this fucking movie.
Is still taking itself way too fucking seriously. Yeah. And I learned a bunch of new things this morning. Apparently DC is starting their own online streaming service like Netflix. And there's a show called Titans that's based on the Teen Titans. And they put a trailer out for it today. So it's Robin and some other people you don't give a shit about. And it is emo as fuck.
Oh, really?
Like the first 30 seconds, Robin says, "Fuck Batman." It's like, I almost tweeted out, DC, why so serious? Like, not everything has to be, have the gravitas and the weight and the dark. It's like so try-hardy. And then Simser tweeted out that he storyboarded for it, so I felt bad. So I didn't tweet out anything negative about it. He'll have to find that out on the podcast.
By the way, it was yesterday, as of this recording, that The Dark Knight had its 10-year anniversary coming out.
Yeah.
And everything. This feels like a movie that should be influential, but it didn't influence anything.
You know what's funny, though, is that half the people on Twitter seem to think it did. 10 years ago, this movie came out and changed superhero films forever. And I'm reading that going, what the fuck?
I think I read that same title, and I said, what has been like The Dark Knight since it came out?
Nothing.
Not even Dark Knight Rises was like Dark Knight.
No.
And nothing that they've come out with since, and this is partially because it's Christopher Nolan who directed it, but I haven't seen anybody try to come up with a story that would work on its own without superheroes.
But would like cinematically shoot for the moon.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't seen anything like that. Now, Marvel has aimed very high, as high as they can, I think, with what they do. But they haven't made anything like The Dark Knight.
It's not standalone, for sure. Nothing is standalone except for maybe Black Panther.
Right.
And we see the flaws in Black Panther as far as the production value and everything. But with Infinity War, as great as it is, you need all that baggage. You need all that knowledge to really make it pay off. And yeah, nobody's come close or even tried to swing for The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Maybe Matthew, what's his name? Well, it's not Matthew Vaughn, the guy that did the Apes movie. He's doing the next Batman movie.
Is he still doing it? I can't keep up with who's doing what anymore.
But help me remember his name.
I don't know.
Matt Reeves. Yeah.
Maybe. You know, but again, I said this recently, so I don't want to repeat myself too much. But DC is just they're caught in a spiral now at this point. They shot the moon trying to get to Avengers without having to waste time on the build-up films. That didn't work. They've done 2 movies now where it hasn't worked. But Wonder Woman standalone worked.
They learned nothing from that shit.
So they have to keep her They can't ditch her.
Right.
Gal Gadot's the best thing they got going for them. But Affleck kind of wants out, and now they're going to do this Aquaman. Everything about that Aquaman poster was hilarious.
Then they have, they have the Joaquin Phoenix Joker that's apparently not even going to be part of.
Yeah,
this
they're just
movie.
like, screw it.
They're
Yeah,
like, let's do everything all at once. And there's no cohesion there. Whereas Marvel, they had a plan 10 years ago. They executed it, worked perfectly. I trust their plan for the next 10 years. Man, DC and Warner Brothers is twisting in the wind.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, watching Justice League again, it didn't bother me as much when I was watching it because I was offended by everything else. But the amount of ass shots of Gal Gadot
There's
in
a
this.
straight up upskirt.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess I just didn't notice it because we haven't done the Sins video for this. I haven't gone back and I was like, God, I mean, this is not even
It was immediately apparent to me when I watched Justice League, because after watching we had just done Wonder Woman for Sins purposes, and then we watched Justice League, and I was like, yeah, Zack Snyder is just kind of
just looking straight up
pervy on this and everything. And I agree, Gal Gadot's a beautiful woman, but you don't need to be doing that shit.
No, and I've already said too much.
It's a warn, in case you didn't.
It's a warn.
Yeah.
I also caught it again to see if my opinions changed, and they did. I like it less now.
I'm definitely not doing that anytime soon.
I didn't even make it to that Superman Flash scene. I tried. I was like, maybe if I get there, it'll kind of. No, can't do it.
Yep.
We're about out of time.
So no time for questions. Okay.
We're building up questions, though. It's going to be
do
a
a whole
beautiful
episode.
orgasm of question answering.
We're building it up like dude in Scary Movie when he's fucking Anna Faris.
We're gonna blow those answers all over your face.
That's right.
Oh shit! We're gonna be like the puppet at the end of the Happy Time.
That's
Murders.
right. That's correct. That'll do it for this week. Keep going to SinCast presented by Cinemasins on Facebook. Keep going to SoundCloud, Twitter. There's a lot of places that you can find us and make a comment about this very episode.
That's right.
Enjoy all the comments. Everybody's bringing out movie suggestions and alternate opinions of certain movies that we've been talking about.
Got a lot of spicy football takes after the last episode.
Oh yeah, spicy football takes.
It's probably about half and half about people agreeing with my disdain for international football or soccer.
Yeah, the half that are with you are Americans.
Yeah, actually, there are a couple of Europeans that are like, yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
But mostly, it's like, well, I can't believe that you guys are into something where it stops every 20 seconds and then they congratulate each other. And I'm like, I can't argue with you.
You're right. No, you can't. You're absolutely right.
I just like it.
In fact, I have that same argument when I'm talking about how much I love baseball and how people say it's glacial. And I'm like, yeah, but football, you have one play every 30 seconds. That's not delaying your time in any way.
Yeah.
And in 500 commercials per we kicked it off, time for a commercial.
Yeah.
Anyway, that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Agnons and Jeremy Scott and Barrett Sher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.
I need to do this fucking thing over.
All right.
I was in the middle of it. I was like, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop now. I've already gotten there. That's right.
I'm making it sound worse than it is, but for a few minutes last night, I thought about picking a Twitter fight with The Rock. And so what I did instead was... I'll explain. So instead what I did was, I knew that was bad. So instead what I did was I went to Frank on Twitter privately. This was kind of late too. And I was like, I kind of feel like picking a Twitter fight with The Rock, but I feel like anybody else I would go to would tell me to shut off my computer and go to bed. And he was like, you came to me because I'm going to tell you to do it. And I was like, no, I can't. I will get crushed. It's pointless. But he had a succession of tweets about his movie, Skyscraper.
The Rock did?
Yeah, that when viewed collectively kind of annoyed me because the first one I saw, somebody I know follows him. So if I'm looking through my main feed, if they retweet something he's tweeted, I'll see some of his stuff in there. And the first tweet was something about some disabled critic had praised the movie's treatment of disability and not made it like a huge deal, which I think the movie should be praised for if it did. But there was something in the quote that he had retweeted about how the movie wasn't like showboating about here's this disability or what have you. And then like later in the day, The Rock tweets out that his movie is the first summer blockbuster to have a main character hero that's an amputee. Hello, Furiosa called.
Yeah.
And that this is the first movie where a female protagonist saves him instead of him saving her. Hello, Moana called.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just like, you're chest beating about the amputeeness of your movie.
Mm-hmm.
After chest beating about how you didn't make a big deal about the amputeeness of your movie.
Mm-hmm.
And as somebody who's not an amputee but is disabled, fuck off. Now, as Frank reminded me, movie studios pay him like millions of dollars to tweet and social media shit about his movies. There was some article like a month ago or something, like he gets $50,000 a tweet or something.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm sure at some point, even a good-hearted guy is going to be struggling to come up with reasons to tweet about a movie. And I know for a fact he met with amputees before he made this movie, while he was making this movie. He went out of his way to try and be open and respectful. I think he's probably a good guy. I just got really frustrated by the succession of those tweets. And, of course, I look in the replies, and people have already reminded him about Furiosa and Moana. And I'm just like, well, there's no point I can make now, but I still feel this bitterness, so I have put it all on Frank. Anyway, I don't know why I decided to tell that. Something you said made me want to tell that story. You know, I'm ashamed at how long it took me to remember how many more M states we had to go this morning on my drive to Starbucks. I was like, Montana, I know, but I feel like there's more.
Yeah. Because I was going to go on to Montana on the next one because I was going to try to get ahead, and I was like, fuck, it
was like 5
Missouri.
minutes later when I went, Missouri! Oh!
You know, there was a conscious decision at some point. Somebody was like, you know what? More M states.
Yeah, seriously. It's got to be the number one letter.
Easily.
Yeah. It's got to be.
In
because all the Norths and News.
Yeah.
Fucking Norths
but
and News.
That doesn't count to me.
No.
Yeah,
if you
I
have
agree.
News and Norths, that doesn't count.
Yeah, that's like
Nebraska counts. But
agreed.
Yeah.
New York doesn't count.
No.
New Jersey, not a state.
Because it's derived from York.
Nevada counts.
It got weird that night.
Yeah.
All right, let's just leave it there. So I think any further explanation is only going to be disappointing. No matter what you actually meant, it can't live up to what I just pictured.
I wish I could tell you. It got really fucking weird.
Which did include one of those giant evil women from the end of Dude, Where's My Car? If you're curious.
We're the hot chicks with big boobs.
Yeah.
All the racism in one page.
Yep.
And my dog Skip.
Yep.
It was like
of
racist,
course my
racist,
dog
racist,
Skip.
racist. My dog Skip.
I wouldn't be surprised if my dog Skip was about a dog who was prejudiced against or something.
It's about a dog that exposes the KKK.
Right. Wasn't Frankie Muniz in that?
Yeah.
That's weird that we were just talking about that.
Yeah, man in the middle. Did you see that Breaking Bad thing that they're like they're doing some 10-year anniversary thing where you can enter a contest and go out and cook with them?
Oh, nice.
Oh.
So you get on the trailer, I guess, and go out to where they cooked, and I think and Aaron Paul's like, and we're gonna go out and we're gonna cook meth, and he's like, probably not, probably breakfast, but maybe meth. I mean, it's one of those things. If you look at Dean Norris's IMDb, it's like every television show ever.
Blue Bloods.
And, and he's always like cop.
Who played Skylar? Anna
Gunn.
Anna Gunn. I haven't seen her in anything recently.
She's in a movie, what's it called? It's about the stock market, which is, those movies are always super appealing.
Right.
It's some kind of stock-related term, like...
Bulls.
Yeah.
Well, it's something like that. It's something like... It's not Double Down, because that's blackjack.
Yeah.
But it's something like that for the stock market. And I watched it because she was in it, and she was okay.
And she's also in Sully.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
She's like one of the questioners, but she's on their side.
Yeah. So Anna Gunn might have a bit of a character actress career going on right now.
She was also she had one before too. She was on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Equity.
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 Double Down.
Yeah.
Shattered Fingers.
Yes.
Sharp Objects?
Sharp Objects?
I've seen the first 2 episodes, yeah.
Is it good?
Is it good? Yeah.
It's great. I've seen Jonathan talking with Scrap on Twitter because they both read the book. And I don't have any of that knowledge. I didn't read the book. So, right now I can't tell you dick about who did it or even, I'm not even sure I know what was done.
Yeah. Is it depressing as shit?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of flashing back between, yes, one of the worst mothers ever in an HBO show since The Sopranos.
Oh, yeah.
And it's, she's great. We love her. She's the wife in Miracle. Kurt Russell's
Patricia
wife.
Clarkson.
Patricia Clarkson.
Yeah,
She's the mother in this show, and holy God, I want to strangle her. I hate her, and it's only been 2 episodes. She's evil.
I watched Blockers last night. 2 nights ago.
What'd you think?
It wasn't as funny as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it's not as funny. I do like the message though. Like,
oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
because like it would have been easy for them to cop out on a lot of stuff in that. Where it would have been like, have you seen Blockers?
No, I bought it. I was at Walmart with my wife. I was like, oh, I haven't seen that. Bought it, put it in, and 10 minutes in, I was like, I literally don't care anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
it took too long to get to the funny for me to.
You're right. Like the message is great, but it's like they didn't pull this off the way that I thought they were going to.
I was hoping it'd be a little bit funnier. They could have done it where none of them have sex, and it's like, well, we're mature enough to make that decision not to have sex, and that's always the message or whatever it seems like of these movies. But in this, they had a mix of, you had one who did it and 2 who didn't.
Catherine Newton
is the one who has one of the funniest lines of the year, if not of the last 5 years for me. Because I think they ask, what do you like, Almond Joy or Mounds?
Oh, yeah.
And she says, I think she said something like, I'd rather suck 10 dicks.
Yes, yeah,
or something like that than eat one mound.
Yeah. I think this movie, I think John Cena only works in certain doses.
Yeah.
And I think this movie has too much John Cena.
That was part of the problem for me, was that opening scene with him and his wife, where half the trailer gags, like the vibrating toothbrush and the eating the underwear that's his daughter's, all those are taking place in the opening 10 minutes of the movie, and he was a little too much.
Yeah.
He was a little too strong.
Yeah.